are listening to Pause. We pause for a second or two. This is episode 50. Specific skill Lagom. Today's episode is about a Swedish concept. Today's episode is about the concept of Lagom. Lagom, if we look it up in a dictionary, Lagom is an adverb. It describes how we do something. And Lagom means when we do something just right. When we do it just enough. When we do it not too much and not too little. Lagom is a word used often and used very casually in a Swedish context. It can be something as everyday as pouring a cup of coffee. So one person might go, "How much coffee do you want?" And the other person goes, "Pour me lagom." Not too much, not too little. But lagom is also used for more serious contexts. So it could be something like the difficulty on this work project. It's just lagom. It's just right for me. The difficulty. Lagom is a very versatile concept. And specific skill Lagom is very well applied to our long-term situation. So our long-term situation is about when we feel worried or anxious about our future. And this concept of Lagom is like a constant centering practice. So, as we are planning our lives, as we are on our long-term path, Lagom is a very good concept to keep with us as we make judgments moment to moment. However, in theory, Lagom is a very straightforward concept And it sounds very good to just pause often and do these sort of contextualizations when we ask ourselves, what would be lagom for me now? It sounds very simple. But in reality, it is very difficult to pursue the path of lagom all the time. It is very difficult. For different reasons. Sometimes we do not want lagom. Sometimes we want to do something excessive, or we want to avoid something altogether. And I guess all of us, we have a couple of things, a couple of areas to life where we are not really striving for lagom at all. We have some areas where we are more than fine of not being lagom. So, specific skill lagom. The point of this skill is not to pursue lagom all the time. It is not really achievable or desirable. No human being is lagom all the time. It doesn't exist. Specific skill lagom is more about being somewhat aware ourselves of when we are stepping outside of lagom. So maybe we find ourselves in a spot where we can observe, we pause and observe that, yeah, right now I am stepping outside of lagom. I am doing something too much, or I am doing something too little. And specific skill lagom is about this sort of awareness. On a group level, our concept of lagom takes on a somewhat different character. In Swedish culture, the concept of lagom is sort of like the umbrella concept for what is expected of the individual within the in-group. And every culture, every people has their own way of communicating what is expected of the individual to be a part of the in-group. So this concept of Lagom, I guess, is a continuation of a somewhat Scandinavian cold climate sort of expectation, cultural expectation on the individual. And I think that this concept of Lagom is very applicable regardless of what kind of culture we are in. That we all know in moment to moment. We all know what is more or less, we all know what is expected of us. We know when we are out of line. We know when we are doing something too much or too little. And Lagom, specific skill, Lagom, is a very usable concept when we are addressing our worries, our anxiety about the future. To address how we feel about staying within these limits of Lagom. And to be honest with ourselves when we do not want to stay within these limits. However, what is perceived to be Lagom is always under constant negotiation. Lagom is not something absolute. What is perceived to be acceptable, to be in group, will always be under constant negotiation. And the people who want to do too much and the people who want to do too little always create this sort of breathing organism of Lagom, breathing in and out. So the people in the periphery of Lagom, they are moving this space, moving these limitations back and forth and constantly negotiating them. So whenever we find ourselves to be too much or too little in some regard, then we are simply the ones, for the moment, carrying this sort of function for the group. And it is natural for us to sometimes have this role of not being lagom, of being too much or too little in some sense. Sometimes we are supposed to be lagom when it feels natural to be so. And at other times, we are supposed to be not lagom. It is my belief that each and every one of us have a couple of areas in life where we do not feel lagom at all. And perhaps, as you are listening to me, you can quickly think of a few areas where you are not lagom at all, and where it does not really feel desirable for anyone, that you should be more lagom than you are. And the areas where you are not lagom are probably the areas where you can contribute to the group with something truly interesting. So, while you are being too much or too little in an area, the group will condemn you. The group will judge you. The group will subject you to some form of violence. And this is true for all of us. We all fall outside of lagom in some area. And the group will be ruthless in this sense. So the group will subject you to judgment and violence. And that is proof in itself that you are onto something. And when you fall outside of lagom, when you feel that you are onto something interesting, my guess is that that is a place where you really feel purpose in life. You feel that you are someone. You are making some noise. You are standing out. You are becoming the subject of discussion. You're standing at the center of something. So you might be falling outside of the group's lagom, but you are dead center within your own lagom. And the tension between your lagom and the group's lagom, that is the dynamics we are looking for. That is the dynamics that, to a great extent, determine where we are going long term. And I know that you know all this already. I just want it to be said out loud. So, in conclusion, specific skill Lagom is about this constant centering of feeling out the balance, what is just right, what is just enough, what is not too much and not too little. So we are constantly aware of this sort of tightrope balance. And sometimes we fall outside of what the group deems as Lagom. And then it gets interesting. So we are dead center of our own Lagom, but we fall outside of the group's view of Lagom. So we are at the same time, we can in some area be in group, and in some other area we might be out group. And this dynamics is highly affecting where we are going long term. It is a great source of anxiety for us. A lot of our worries in life stem from this tension of our Lagom and the group's Lagom. And most important to keep in mind is that everyone falls outside of Lagom from time to time. Everyone has their own areas where they are not Lagom at all. And we are all in the same boat in this regard. We are all standing on the same ground in this regard. It's very important to keep in mind, so that we may pursue what is interesting and contribute with something cool. That's it for today. Thank you.